So we thought we would first read poetry for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then launch into a discussion. Yeah?
Okay.
So we're just going to jump right into it. The first poem is something that was written while spending hours and days sitting in a balcony looking at trees. You know what happens when you look down at trees and you see all the birds coming and all the birds going and the formations and sort of the cycle of what happens in the day. This poem emerged from a time spent like that. Every evening, the trees inhale birds, swirling back home like a warm shawl. But I still wait for my perch in your arms. Like a peg, I would hold so lightly the sheets of your night flights. We would travel in one mind, your old lands, my new skies, and every morning you would breathe me fly.
This is so much a Kannada poem written in English because we see this every day when you see the birds flying back, especially in Jayanagar in South Bangalore, which is so green. I see this every day. This is like my poem. So I was very happy to, and it came in one stretch. So let me just read it. ಪ್ರತಿ ಸಂಜೆ ಮರಗಳು ಹಕ್ಕಿಗಳನ್ನು ಒಳಕ್ಕೆಳೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತವೆ. ಸುತ್ತಾಡಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹಿಂದಿರುಗುವವನ್ನು ಬೆಚ್ಚಗಿನ ಶಾಲಿನಂತೆ. ಆದರೆ ನಾನಿನ್ನೂ ಕಾಯುತ್ತೇನೆ ನಿನ್ನ ತೋಳಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ತಂಗಲು. ನಿನ್ನ ರಾತ್ರಿಯ ಹಾರಾಟದ ಚಾದರಗಳನ್ನು ಲಘುವಾಗಿ ಗರಿಮುರಿದು ನಾವಿಬ್ಬರೂ ಒಂದಾಗಿ ಹಾರುತ್ತೇವೆ. ನಿನ್ನ ಹಳೆಯ ಭೂಮಿ ನನ್ನ ಹೊಸ ಆಗಸ. ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರತಿ ಮುಂಜಾನೆ ನೀನು ನನ್ನ ಹಾರಾಟದ ಉಸಿರಾಗುವೆ.
The next poem is about eyes. You know, when you're in love and you are looking into somebody's eyes, and it's almost like a locking mechanism, you know. You just can't take your eyes off the person. There's a sort of a depth and a thirst that goes on. So this begins with that. Eyes are emissaries, soft knocks, nibs. Eyes are tongues, mad riverbeds, insomniac for salt. Eyes are fangs, bared chisel tattooing face on retina. Bite this word, lick that wound. Eyes are the itineraries of shooting stars on the tail of new disasters. Faster than witnesses, slow as alibis. Don't look. Phoenix of mirages, illusions, holy ash, rising mohair soot. Darkness caving into black diamonds, lashes fan the air between. Stones drowned to measure water of expression, water nothing dissolves in, pure staring child. Soft convex pillows, seed of sleep. A false door revolves, a roulette swings back to starting position. The masochists bring out exographs. Unfurling clitoris, descriptions insatiable. Eyes are braille.
ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ದೂತರು, ಮೃದುಗುದ್ದುಗಳು, ಮುನೆಗಳು. ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ನಾಲಿಗೆಗಳು, ಹುಚ್ಚು ಹೊಳೆದಡದ ಉಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ನಿದ್ದೆಗೆಟ್ಟವು. ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ಕೋರೆ ಹಲ್ಲುಗಳು, ಕಣ್ಣುಗುಡ್ಡೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಮುಖ ಹಚ್ಚೆ ಕುತ್ತುವ ತೆರೆದ ಉಳಿಗಳು. ಆ ಪದ ಮುಕ್ಕು, ಈ ಗಾಯ ನೆಕ್ಕು. ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ಹೊಸ ವಿಪತ್ತುಗಳ ಬಾಲದ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೀಳುವ ನಕ್ಷತ್ರಗಳ ಮಾರ್ಗಸೂಚಿಗಳು. ಸಾಕ್ಷಿಗಳಿಗಿಂತ ವೇಗವಾಗಿ, ಪುರಾವೆಗಳಿಗಿಂತ ನಿಧಾನವಾಗಿ ನೋಡಬೇಡ. ಮರೀಚಿಕೆಗಳ ಫಿನಿಕ್ಸ್, ಸೂಚ್ಯಗಳ ಪವಿತ್ರ ಬೂದಿಯ ಗಾಳಿಯಲ್ಲೆದ್ದ ಮೊಹೇರ್ಗಳ ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಕೂದಲ ಮಸಿ. ಕಪ್ಪು ವಜ್ರದೊಳಗೆ ಕುಸಿದು ಬಿದ್ದ ಕತ್ತಲು, ನಡುವಿನ ಗಾಳಿ ಬೀಸುವ ರೆಪ್ಪೆಗಳು, ಅಭಿವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಜಲ ಅಳಿಯಲು ಮುಳುಗುವ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳು, ಯಾವುದೂ ಕರಗದ ನೀರು, ಶುದ್ಧ ದಿಟ್ಟಿಸುವ ಮಗು, ಮೃದು ಪೀನಾಕೃತಿಯ ದಿಂಬುಗಳು, ನಿದ್ದೆಯ ಬೀಜಗಳು. ಒಂದು ನಕಲಿ ಬಾಗಿಲು ತಿರುಗುತ್ತದೆ, ಜೂಜಿನ ರೌಲೆಟ್ ಸುತ್ತಿ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭದ ಸ್ಥಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಮರಳುತ್ತದೆ. ಮ್ಯಾಸೋಚಿಸ್ಟ್ಗಳು ಎಕ್ಸೋಗ್ರಾಫನ್ನು ಹೊರತರುತ್ತಾರೆ. ತೆರೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಭಗಾಂಕುರ ವಿವರಣೆಗಳು ತಣಿಯಲಾರದವು, ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ಬ್ರೈಲ್.
Of course, the underlying thought being that love is blind and therefore the vision or the staring was braille. The next poem is a longer poem in 6 parts, or actually 3 parts. It is located in Kashi. It came out of visits to Manikarnika and the burning ghats of Kashi. Rather, the reflections came out of some of those visits, and the images are from there. Don't ask who is cooking tonight at Harishchandra and Manikarnika, holy confidential kitchens of Kashi. Shroud tears, skin sears, juicy fats oblation. Did marrow fizz, fire laugh? In 3 hours and a half, this human log, collectible in a dustpan.
Shall I read that or wait?
Please.
I love these Kashi poems. All of them are exquisite and very good, and I was very nervous if I could get that in translation. But tell me if it is good. ಇಂದು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಯಾರು ಬೇಯುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆಂದು ಕೇಳಬೇಡಿ. ಹರಿಶ್ಚಂದ್ರ ಮತ್ತು ಮಣಿಕರ್ಣಿಕಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಶಿಯ ಗೋಪ್ಯ ಪವಿತ್ರ ಅಡಿಗೆ ಮನೆಗಳವು. ಇಂದು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಯಾರು ಬೇಯುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆಂದು ಕೇಳಬೇಡಿ. ಹರಿಶ್ಚಂದ್ರ ಮತ್ತು ಮಣಿಕರ್ಣಿಕಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಶಿಯ ಗೋಪ್ಯ ಪವಿತ್ರ ಅಡಿಗೆ ಮನೆಗಳವು. ಹೆಣದ ಹೊದಿಕೆ ಹರಿಯುತ್ತದೆ, ಚರ್ಮ ಸೀಯುತ್ತದೆ, ರಸಭರಿತವಾದ ಕೊಬ್ಬಿನ ನೈವೇದ್ಯ. ಮಜ್ಜೆ ಸೀತ್ಕರಿಸುತ್ತದೆ, ಬೆಂಕಿ ನಗುತ್ತದೆ. 3.5 ಗಂಟೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಮನುಷ್ಯನೆಂಬ ಕೊರಡು ಒಂದು ಮೊರದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಗ್ರಹವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ.
For the first time, I think to count your eyelashes, to pluck them before they're singed. Of each, I'll make a boat unmoored. Where in the worlds are you? As if I poured a sky of wax on you. Everywhere you are not your exact absence.
ಮೊದಲ ಬಾರಿಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಕಣ್ರೆಪ್ಪೆಗಳನ್ನು ಎಣಿಸಬೇಕೆನಿಸಿತು. ಸುಡುವ ಮೊದಲು ಅವನ್ನು ಕೀಳುವ ಬಯಕೆ. ಒಂದೊಂದರಿಂದಲೂ ನಿರ್ಮಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ ಮುಳುಗದ ದೋಣಿಯನ್ನು. ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವೆ ನೀನು ಯಾವ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ? ನಿನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಮೇಣದ ಆಕಾಶವನ್ನು ಸುರಿದಿರುವೆನೋ ಎನ್ನುವಂತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ನೀನು ನಿನ್ನ ಸಾಕ್ಷಾತ್ ಗೈರು ಹಾಜರಿಯಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
In Uttar Kashi, where sun dives and pirouettes and fish roll their eyes, dodging tangled light doodles, we cup our hands and drink Ma Ganga, infused with arias of swans and undertones of glaciers. Sweetness rises, air floats sinless.
ಉತ್ತರ ಕಾಶಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಧುಮುಕಿ ಗಿರಿಗಿಟ್ಟಲೆಯಾಡುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಮೀನುಗಳು ಕಣ್ಣು ತಿರುವುತ್ತವೆ ತಪ್ಪಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾ. ಬೆಳಕಿನ ಗೀಚುಗೆರೆಗಳನ್ನು ಬೊಗಸೆ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಗಂಗಾಮಾತೆಯನ್ನು ಕುಡಿಯುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಹಂಸಗಳ ಆಲಾಪಗಳಿಂದ ಮತ್ತು ಹಿಮಪ್ರವಾಹಗಳ ಮಂತ್ರಗಳಿಂದ ಅಂತರ್ಗತವಾದ ಜಲ ಸಿಹಿ ಉಕ್ಕುತ್ತದೆ. ಪಾಪಮುಕ್ತ ಗಾಳಿ ಬೀಸುತ್ತದೆ.
In Kashi, where shadows hover anxious like dogs marking corners of terraced ghats, In Kashi, where shadows hover anxious like dogs marking corners of terraced ghats as lovers drink mirrors, a curly suit rains upon the free bereft and pundits claim ashes still warm from midnight pyres for altar coffers at dawn. Hey Vishwanath of Kashi, O Mount Alchemy, here I am, weightless. Now take me home.
ಕಾಶಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರಳುಗಳು ಎಡೆತಾಕುತ್ತವೆ ಆತಂಕದಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾಯಿಗಳು ತಮ್ಮ ಗುರುತು ಬಿಡುವಂತೆ ಟೆರೇಸಿನ ಘಾಟುಗಳ ಮೂಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ. ಪ್ರೇಮಿಗಳು ಕನ್ನಡಿಯನ್ನು ಕುಡಿಯುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಸುರುಳಿಯಾಕಾರದ ಬೂದಿ ಮಳೆಗರಿಯುತ್ತದೆ ಮುಕ್ತ ಸಂತಾಪಕರ ಮೇಲೆ. ಪಂಡಿತರು ಸಂಗ್ರಹಿಸುತ್ತಾರೆ ಬೆಚ್ಚಗಿನ ಭಸ್ಮ. ನಡುರಾತ್ರಿಯ ಚಿತೆಯಿಂದ ಮುಂಜಾನೆ ಬರುವ ಬೂದಿ ಬಡುಕರಿಗಾಗಿ. ಪಂಡಿತರು ಸಂಗ್ರಹಿಸುತ್ತಾರೆ ಬೆಚ್ಚಗಿನ ಭಸ್ಮ ನಡುರಾತ್ರಿಯ ಚಿತೆಯಿಂದ ಮುಂಜಾನೆ ಬರುವ ಬೂದಿ ಬಡುಕರಿಗಾಗಿ. ಹೇ ಕಾಶಿ ವಿಶ್ವನಾಥ, ಓ ರಸವಿದ್ಯೆಯ ಪರ್ವತವೇ, ಇಗೋ ನಾನೆಲ್ಲಿ ತೂಕರಹಿತಳೋ, ಈಗ ಮನೆ ಸೇರಿಸು ನನ್ನ.
So long as mountains meditate, this river will be wet. So long as boatmen paddle, a lullaby for the dead. Before sun strikes and water turns cold, we row to a spot churning upstream. Hand your ashes over to the current.
ಪರ್ವತಗಳು ಧ್ಯಾನಸ್ಥರಾಗಿರುವಷ್ಟು ಕಾಲ ಈ ನದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೇವವಿರುತ್ತದೆ. ಅಂಬಿಗರು ಶವಗಳಿಗೆ ಜೋಗುಳ ಹಾಡುತ್ತಾ ಹುಟ್ಟು ಹಾಕುವ ತನಕ. ಸೂರ್ಯ ಸುಡುವ ಮೊದಲು, ನೀರು ತಂಪಾಗುವ ಮೊದಲು, ಪ್ರವಾಹಕ್ಕಿದಿರಾಗಿ ಸಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ತಾಣ ಸೇರುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರ ಸೆಳೆತಕ್ಕೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಬೂದಿಯನ್ನು ಒಪ್ಪಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ.
Ash can't swim. Hangs on to algae on hulls, falls into arms of corals, scraped and bitten by fish, shat along gorges and flats. Why else do river beaches shine? What is mica made of?
ಬೂದಿಗೆ ಈಜಲಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬೂದಿಗೆ ಈಜಲಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಡಗಿನ ತಳದ ಪಾಚಿಗೆ ಜೋತು ಬಿದ್ದು ಹವಳಗಳ ತೋಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆರೆಯಾಗಿ, ತರಚಿಕೊಂಡು ಮೀನುಗಳ ಹಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿ, ಕೊರಕಲು ಮತ್ತು ಸಪಾಟುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಸರ್ಜಿಸಿ, ಹೊಳೆದಂಡೆಗಳು ಹೊಳೆಯುವುದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೇಗೆಂದುಕೊಂಡಿರಿ? ಕಾಗೆ ಬಂಗಾರ ಏನೆಂದುಕೊಂಡಿರಿ?
Thank you. That just sounded so beautiful.
We can talk a little bit.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. See, oh, they thought
Go
we
ahead.
finished.
That's fine. Yeah.
See, though Mani is an Indian, but much traveled, and she has first-hand experience of various societies in India and abroad. And still, as a poet, as an Indian poet, we always feel there is some sort of a connection, even though English is so different from the regional languages, especially my language. It's always difficult to translate something from English or from Kannada to English because of the language structure. That is not all. Sometimes the idea itself is so alien that you feel that you can never get that correctly in my language or when I do it from Kannada to English. I was always curious why your poems were translated into so many European languages and not into Indian languages.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think Hindi, it got translated
Recently,
to Hindi
yeah.
now. So when I started translating this, suddenly I felt a connection at a moment when I didn't feel it alien at all. And I said, why didn't we do this earlier? Because there are so many of our poems that are so dear to us. And, you can easily connect with that. But we didn't do that.
For exactly the same reason, I think, though, because you'll find very few Anglophone Indian poets translated into Indian languages. a lot of the effort of the Indian language translators is to bring in cultural words from elsewhere, right? So they want to translate something from like a European or I don't know, Italian or whatever other language, because you're expanding the cultural idiom, and people read that because they think they're getting an insight into a different social, cultural world. But that itself is proof that the Anglophone poets in India are actually not alien as is often claimed, because it is quite fashionable to say that, oh, well, you're writing in English, you're not really connected to the Indian experience, but that is a lot of nonsense, because we live here, experience is multifarious. It doesn't matter what language we write in, it still reeks, and it's the whole experience around us is the same for both of us. It's like we survive in the same jungle, and then suddenly you sort of like face each other.
But I thought that was the beginning, that was the first stage actually for the Indian English writing.
Yes.
But now Indian English writing has come of age in a very different way.
Okay.
Because the Indian English itself is now being analyzed and studied at a different level, because earlier how the jokes about how the Indians speak English, but those days are gone.
Those days are
long,
gone, a long
gone.
time back,
And
yeah.
now we are looking at Indian English from a very different kind of, like, you have different Englishes.
Yes.
So the
Englishes,
Indian English poets, sometimes they need to get translated into British English also. Indian English poems, they need to be translated to British English or the American English.
Sometimes I feel I need to translate myself.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So I think right now we have crossed the language barrier, because just like all the arts are being redefined, they are restructured, everything. So the poetry and the translation also has undergone a major shift now.
And what is interesting actually about the project that we have done, and the whole thing is the beauty of the process is the combination of the familiar and the foreign. It's and the foreign, as we call it, the alien or the foreign or the strange. What is different that makes it interesting in a different language is because you're importing this poetry into Kannada literature, right? And it's doing something else to that new corpus. And I think that is not only a fact or a measure of, say, my exposure to other cultures. Of course, that's an element of my poetry. But actually, every person, including you, has a foreign element inside, meaning an individual, unique, differentness to them. And so any translator who then touches that will come into contact with that. And that's the whole thing, is the parts that are familiar and the parts that are strange, and the whole alchemy that happens between that, I think, is what makes it work. Like the other day, remember when you said there was a line about we store our plates, the plates of our daughters, and you said to the audience, but we don't do that.
Yeah.
And I said, neither do we. Neither do we. It was not I was not saying that from a different cultural habit. It was just part of my imagination.
Okay.
So I had invented.
Did you get that? I think they store girls' plates, for hair. Do you know that? We don't do that, no?
Yeah, but neither do we, is what I said, because she thought it was a reference to a different cultural context.
Do you do that? Do you keep the daughter's hair as a memoir?
No. Yeah, so I had just made it up. It was not like some from like, I don't know.
No, see,
Brunei or something.
The language per se, English. See, I was asking her when she used one particular word here, parent. We don't have a word for just one single parent in Kannada. It's always father, mother, or the parents. So I didn't know. So I called her and asked her, should I put it as mother or father? Because she had said just a single parent. It could be anybody.
I had to make a choice, yeah. Yeah.
So then I think I put it
Those,
as
but those are very minor, very interesting things to do with the fact that like Kannada is a very, very gendered
yeah, yeah.
language.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then there are people who try to write French without using gendered language. I mean, that's really challenging because that's an extremely gendered language.
Even Urdu, for example,
Yeah.
they have gender. And in fact, Urdu is such a rich language. They have 8 or 10 options, synonyms for one word, which has to be used in a particular situation, you know.
Yeah.
Like for blood, they have 8 different words. And you have to use that in love or in war or in killing. You know, they had,
It all
or in
depends on the context.
sacrifice, you
Yeah.
have to use that
Very
particular
interesting.
word.
Yeah. Yeah. A long time back, when there's somebody translated a poem of mine into Korean, it was for the Manhei Museum, where they've, it's called Sheltering Sky. And there's a line in that that says, those silly ghosts with hands thrown up, something like that. And he just didn't understand the line. And eventually, I mean, after some discussion, what it turned out was that he said, ghosts are not silly. I said, oh, okay, what are ghosts like? And he said, well, they're ferocious. They have long hair and daggers, and they're ferocious. What do you mean, silly ghosts? So this was like a very direct cultural difference, and he was not able to like translate that directly. So that would be a huge difference. Yes. Whereas for us,
yeah,
we mainly had, like, I think, linguistic.
No.
Issues.
Wait. I want to ask the one. There was one poem, the first poem, I think.
Okay.
And I said, it's about death. And I first translated it, and I just kept thinking that this is not what she has said. 100 times I read it and read it and read it, and finally I also had, unless it was really necessary, I wanted to ask her. I didn't want to ask her, thinking she would think that what, I can't understand the poem, how can I be a translator? So then finally I called her and said, Mani, why have you used her here? Because for us, death is always a man.
Yeah, I said, well, it was her.
Yeah, then she told me that she had used, for all the death, she always addresses death as her.
Also there's the other reverse of it. I also said that she was death. Okay. It wasn't that death was her, but she was death.
She was death. Shall we read that poem?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
When death fell asleep between my legs, one arm slung over my knee, I pulled her up to my leaking breasts and heard her grind her teeth.
Yes. ಸಾವು ನನ್ನ ಕಾಲುಗಳ ನಡುವೆ ಹುದುಗಿ ಒಂದು ಕೈ ನನ್ನ ಮಂಡಿಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಚಾಚಿ ನಿದ್ದೆಗಿಳಿದು ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಸೋರುವ ಮೊಲೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವಳನ್ನು ಸೆಳೆದಪ್ಪಿಕೊಂಡೆ. ಅವಳು ಹಲ್ಲು ಕಡಿಯುತ್ತಿದ್ದುದು ಕೇಳಿಸಿತು.
Okay, so you managed to go with a feminine death. Okay.
Yeah, and also, see, when I translate, I always make it a point to say this, that I don't add, I don't delete anything. It's very important for me, that I do. See, these days, I see a lot of people who add something, or if they don't understand, they just delete it.
Is it actually even possible though, Pratibha? Is it possible?
They do all the time.
No, is it possible for you to do that? Like to not add anything and not delete anything?
The text, it shouldn't be distorted in any way.
Okay.
It should not be, you cannot add your own idea into it or your own words or line. Like for example, the parent thing.
I think the mission is always fidelity. The mission or the goal is always fidelity, but it is your presence and your voice that actually makes it what it is, because another Kannada translator would have done it differently, because otherwise it would have been a machine translation, right, or a computer translation. It's because you translated it that you've put your personality and attitude and language and etc. into it. So while it may be so that you haven't added anything and haven't subtracted anything, I think definitely your individualism will be in the poetry, and that is also why I wanted to work with you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. See, I have seen lot of translation these days. Even one, I think I told you that day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
translated Shashi Deshpande's novel into Kannada, and I am her fan. I've read all her works, and the first page I see it says, coffee kuditira. Do you want coffee? And the original said tea.
I mean, that
So
means that's an unnecessary
I said,
change.
I asked why did. So the translator told me she likes coffee. I
This is
was
just so absurd.
and after that I started making a note of the every time I read a translation I'm so tempted. It's a evil thing, I know, to go back to the original and compare.
Yeah,
No,
anyway, but I'm completely happy with Pratibha saying that she hasn't added anything and hasn't subtracted
yeah.
anything.
See,
Actually,
because
even Malinatha says this for Kalidasa Bhashya, he says, I have not added anything and I have not subtracted anything. And I think that's a
I
very respectable
no,
position to
and
have.
also that is where the scholarship is in translation, because if you take it so easy and if you give in very easily to add or describe or something, then what is the challenge in translation?
But what Karthik Venkatesh said about your translations, he said they stand on their own as Kannada poems. So after I read that blurb,
Karthik
I thought that, well.
Karthik is very generous. Should we read that?
Which one? Oh, the blurb. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
excellent.
Karthik Venkatesh, who is very meticulous and strict about.
He says Pratibha Nandakumar's translations are carefully calibrated to both reflect the English originals as well as stand out on the basis of their own strength, a rare feat indeed.
So he's
So
very
that's the
generous. He's
huge
very
compliment
generous.
still. This is wonderful. Shall we go to some
But
more poems for a
yeah,
while?
just one last thing. I
Okay.
just want to finish this first round of conversation. See, Mani Rao's poems, they are very intimate, yet they talk about so many things that could be very general, and so they could be a universal thing that she's talking about, at the same time being very, very personal. Don't say all poems are like that, when but suddenly you feel that she puts in a thought that you would not have thought earlier, but suddenly makes you think, did I also think like this, or maybe I should think like this. There are so many lines in her poems that I felt it made me stop, pause, read again, and
Yeah, and
that's
sorry
what
to
I like.
extend this conversation. I don't know if they're enjoying this or what.
I don't
But
know.
actually, when we were working on this, it was so delightful because she would say, I have a poem also about fish. And she would read one of her poems, and we
Yeah.
found so many commonalities
Yes,
about
yes.
the way our imagery and how we thought worked,
Yes, yes,
so that
yes.
was also the synchronicity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I fell in love with her fish poems because I have a series on fish poems. That was, of course, if I may take the liberty to explain, A.K. Ramanujan and me, we were very good friends, and he was telling me about the Matsya Purana and about the fish, and the life of fish itself is so poetic. Like some fish travel mid-sea to mate, and then some fish travel up the current and mate, and then come down lakes, and then they die. So all the things were so poetic. So I had one series of poems on fish, and suddenly her fish poem was suddenly, I said, Ray, I know this poem, kind of.
Can I
You
tell
go
them
grab
this?
that poem, kind of. Yeah, let's read
It
that.
wasn't this is not as cosmic as what she was describing. It's actually no, it's not really like that at all, but you can call it grand. Here in thought I sit on the ocean floor, the pose of sands waving grandness, little fish nibbling golden scarlet at my nipples.
Which was that? ಯಾವುದೋ ಗುಂಗಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡಲ ತಳದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತಿದ್ದೇನೆ, ಭವ್ಯ ಅಲೆಗಳ ಬೀಸುವ ಮರಳ ಠೀವಿ, ನನ್ನ ಮೊಲೆ ತೊಟ್ಟು ಕಡಿಯುತ್ತಿರುವ ಬಂಗಾರ ಬಣ್ಣದ ಮರಿಮೀನುಗಳು.
Pratibha, shall we go to some poems next? Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay, before some other wanting to talk comes
Yeah.
into our minds. Okay.
This
So,
Which is that, 39?
39.
Yeah.
This poem is about how involuntary life is. Living is so involuntary, actually, as well. Arranged again in parallel lines, my bare feet face the door, welcoming the railroad of time, space. But death is not interested when I am. I wake up like a dancer into a rehearsed familiar position. The boatman has vanished, leaving the oars, and I am inflating unstoppably into my hollows, shoes, clothes, pen.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಮಾನಾಂತರ ರೇಖೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಬರಿಗಾಲುಗಳು ಬಾಗಿಲತ್ತ ಮುಖ ಮಾಡಿವೆ, ದೇಶಕಾಲದ ಹಳಿಗಳನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತಾ. ಆದರೆ ನನಗೆ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಇರುವಾಗ ಸಾವಿಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನರ್ತಕಿಯಂತೆ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡಿದ ಪರಿಚಿತ ಭಂಗಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏಳುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಹುಟ್ಟುಗಳನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಂಬಿಗ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಮಾಯವಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ನಿಗ್ರಹಿಸಲಾಗದ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಟೊಳ್ಳುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಉಬ್ಬುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಶೂಗಳು, ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳು, ಪೆನ್ನು.
The next poem is an imagination about a figure of anarchy. Piece by piece, clothes fell, skin peeled, and flesh ran in lumps and gravy. Her sidelong glance still tosses lazily on your hammock smile. Ice cube swirling provocation in your glass. The bones are good to drum with, tusk plucked and thrown like a gauntlet. Row of ivory pawns, pillars in war of no ceiling. You relieve the palms of superfluous arms and use their sawtooth blades to slice our necks. Shells of infant heads you smash on trees, oil-stained trunks as tears of elephants. We play calm host to your furrowing worms, rats tentative in our gullies, radio flies. When you tap for one last formal dance, we show up in crossbone bow ties. Jiggling our hips, we make the rat-a-tat-tat of castanets. Your raised leg swings, the ball of your foot bounces, tilting the earth, the heel falls, correcting the tilt. Chandeliers heave, marbles rrrr, our skulls, your lost beach balls. Someday, some snake, our scarf or rag will loop through our sockets to polish us.
ಒಂದೊಂದಾಗಿ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳು ಕಳಚಿ ಬಿದ್ದವು. ಚರ್ಮ ಸುಲಿದು ಮಾಂಸ ಗಡ್ಡೆಗಡ್ಡೆಯಾಗಿ ರಸವಾಗಿ ಹರಿಯಿತು. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹ್ಯಾಮೋಕ್ ಮುಗುಳಂಗೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವಳ ವಾರೆ ನೋಟ. ಸಾವಕಾಶ ಒಗೆದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗ್ಲಾಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಐಸುಗಡ್ಡೆಗಳು ಪ್ರಚೋದನೆಯ ಕದಡುತ್ತಾ. ಮೂಳೆಗಳು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿವೆ ಡ್ರಮ್ ಬಡಿಯಲು. ದಂತ ಕಿತ್ತು ಕರಸ್ತ್ರಾಣದಂತೆ ಎಸೆದು ದಂತದ ಪಗಡೆಕಾಯಿಗಳ ಸಾಲು, ಕೊನೆಯಿಲ್ಲದ ಕದನದ ಸ್ತಂಭಗಳು. ಬಳಕೆಯಾಗದ ತೋಳುಗಳ ಅಂಗೈಗಳನ್ನು ಕತ್ತರಿಸಿ ಒಗೆದು ಅವುಗಳ ಗರಗಸ ಹಲ್ಲಿನ ಬ್ಲೇಡುಗಳನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೊರಳು ಕತ್ತರಿಸಲು ಬಳಸುವಿರಿ. ಹಸುಳೆಗಳ ತಲೆಚಿಪ್ಪುಗಳನ್ನು ಮರಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಡಿಯುತ್ತೀರಿ. ಕಾಂಡಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ತೈಲ ಕಲೆಗಳು ಆನೆಗಳ ಕಣ್ಣೀರಿನಂತೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗುಳಿ ತೋಡುವ ಹುಳಗಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಶಾಂತ ಅತಿಥೇಯರು. ನಮ್ಮ ಗಲ್ಲಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಗ್ಗಣಗಳು ತಾತ್ಕಾಲಿಕ ಗುಯಿಂಗುಡುವ ರೇಡಿಯೋ ನೊಣಗಳು. ಕೊನೆಯ ಸಾಂಪ್ರದಾಯಿಕ ನೃತ್ಯಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಸನ್ನೆ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾವು ಕ್ರಾಸ್ಬೋನ್ ಬೋ ಟೈ ಧರಿಸಿ ಹಾಜರಾಗುತ್ತೇವೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಂಟ ಕುಣಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಚಿಮ್ಮಟಿಗಳ ಟಕ 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 ಸದ್ದು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಮೇಲಕ್ಕೆತ್ತಿದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲು ಚೆಂಡನ್ನು ಪಾದದಿಂದ ಚಿಮ್ಮಿಸುತ್ತದೆ. ಭೂಮಿ ವಾರೆಯಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಿಮ್ಮಡಿ ಕೆಳಗಿಳಿದು ವಾರೆಯನ್ನು ನೆಟ್ಟಗೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತದೆ. ಶ್ಯಾಂಡಿಲೇರ್ಗಳು ನಿಡುಸುಯುತ್ತವೆ. ಗೋಲಿಗಳು ರರ್ರ್. ನಮ್ಮ ತಲೆಬುರುಡೆಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಳೆದು ಹೋದ ಬೀಚ್ ಬಾಲ್ಗಳು. ಎಂದಾದರೊಂದು ದಿನ ಯಾವುದೋ ಹಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕಾರ್ಫ್ ಅಥವಾ ಚಿಂದಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಣ್ಣ ಗುಳಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾದು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಪಾಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತದೆ.
I was so fascinated, not even fascinated, I would say horrified, or the horror in that poem is a mixture of, I guess, thinking about Pol Pot and such figures. Some of the images came from the history of that in Cambodia, based on a trip there, and that's how I write. I travel, and then the thoughts happen and find their way into the poetry. So that was horror, and the idea of the other being some kind of mysterious figure is a slightly different kind of horror combined with beauty as well, which the next poem touches on. When I draped it around myself, I found it wasn't fur. It was alive and wouldn't let go. When I draped it around myself, I found it wasn't fur. It was alive and wouldn't let go. So I danced with the bear and got to know the lightness and seriousness of its hands. Delicately, with cultured paws, it tore at my flesh and stopped for some other thought. What does a half-wed do? What can a half-wed do? Keep the wound lush? Smile in secret? Stay in bed? By day, freckles pop mustard seeds. By night, moon glosses grain on lake rims.
This half-wedded concept is very new. We have no word for that. This is the first time I think we have introduced this in Kannada. I don't know what we would say that. Half-wedded.
What did you say?
I just said, I translate it as it is. Half-wedded. ಅದನ್ನು ಹೊದ್ದುಕೊಂಡ ಮೇಲೆಯೇ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದ್ದು ತೊಗಲಲ್ಲ, ಅದಿನ್ನೂ ಜೀವಂತವೆಂದು, ಮತ್ತು ಅದು ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಬಿಡುವುದಿಲ್ಲವೆಂದು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಕರಡಿಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ನರ್ತಿಸಿದೆ. ಅದರ ಕೈಗಳ ಹಗುರತನ ಮತ್ತು ಗಂಭೀರತೆಯ ಪರಿಚಯವಾಯಿತು. ಅದು ತನ್ನ ನಾಜೂಕು ಪಂಜದಿಂದ ನಯವಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಮಾಂಸಖಂಡ ಹರಿಯುತ್ತಾ ಏನೋ ಯೋಚನೆ ಹೊಳೆದು ತುಸು ತಡೆಯಿತು. ಅರೆ ಮದುವೆಯಾದವರು ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರೆ? ಅರೆ ಮದುವೆಯಾದವರು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? ಗಾಯ ಹಸಿಯಾಗಿರಿಸಿ ಗುಪ್ತವಾಗಿ ಮುಗುಳ್ನಕ್ಕೋ ಹಾಸಿಗೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಬಿದ್ದುಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಗಲು ಕಂದು ಮಚ್ಚೆಗಳ ಸಾಸುವೆ ಸಿಡಿಯುತ್ತದೆ. ಇರುಳು ಚಂದಿರ ಕೊಳದ ಅಂಚಿನ ಹೊಳಪಿನ ಕಣವಾಗುತ್ತಾನೆ.
Okay. Next poem. No introduction. That we are scarecrows presiding over tracks does not stop crows from placing feathers in our caps or cracking up, or stop termites pinching our feet. The powdery husk of their voices carries in the wind like sawdust. Look there, poor dog, pissing in the breeze again, chasing she who does not know fidelity. Last year's clothes are deluged by sand in the hourglass of my body. Is there time before upside down? I've lined my pockets with the fat satin of gluttony. I've toned my thighs on charity walks. Maybe the highway robbers will have a special smile for me. Our greedy pens gorge on trees. What when we cover all the trees and nothing stirs the chrysalis?
Very good. ನಾವು ಹಳಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಗತ್ತಿನಿಂದ ಕೂತ ಬೆರ್ಚಪ್ಪಗಳಾದರೂ ಕಾಗೆಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಟೋಪಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಪುಕ್ಕಗಳನ್ನಿಟ್ಟು ಗಹಗಹಿಸುವುದನ್ನು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಥವಾ ಗೆದ್ದಲುಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲುಗಳನ್ನು ಗಿಲ್ಲುವುದನ್ನು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರ ಧೂಳಿನಂತಹ ಗಡಸು ಧ್ವನಿಗಳು ಗಾಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೂರುತ್ತವೆ ಮರದ ಹೊಟ್ಟು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡು, ಪಾಪ ನಾಯಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗಾಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಉಚ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಿದೆ, ನಿಯತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದವಳನ್ನು ಹಿಂಬಾಲಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಓಡುತ್ತಾ. ಕಳೆದ ವರ್ಷದ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳು ಮರಳುಮಯ. ನನ್ನ ಅವರ್ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮಯವಿದೆಯೇ ತಲೆ ಕೆಳಕು ಮಾಡುವ ಮೊದಲು? ನನ್ನ ಜೇಬುಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಬಾಕತನದ ದಪ್ಪ ಸಟಿನ್ ಪದರ ಲೇಪಿಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ದಾನ ಧರ್ಮದ ನಡೆಗಳಿಂದ ನನ್ನ ತೊಡೆ ಸಪುರವಾಗಿದೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ಹೆದ್ದಾರಿಯ ಕಳ್ಳರು ನನಗಾಗಿ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದ ಮುಗುಳ್ನಗೆ ಬೀರುತ್ತಾರೇನೋ. ನಮ್ಮ ದುರಾಸೆಯ ಪೆನ್ನುಗಳು ಕಾಡುಗಳನ್ನು ಕಬಳಿಸುತ್ತವೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಮರಗಳನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಮತ್ತು ಗೂಡುಗಟ್ಟಿದ ಹುಳ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಕದಲುವುದಿಲ್ಲವೆಂದರೆ ಮುಂದೇನು? This hourglass, I didn't know, I couldn't translate that into Kannada. Because the hourglass...
There's no word for it?
Yeah, there's no word. We have word, but it is... Here, the hourglass is for the shape. So, I just had to keep it
as hourglass. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no Kannada word?
No.
None at all?
No. Not, especially not this. You have played the pun with it.
But the object itself...
Yeah, we have Galige Battalu. The Galige Battalu is the traditional hourglass, but it has a hole and it's put in the water, and slowly the water gets into
you don't
that,
get the
and
same
then
image.
Then it goes down when
so it's not the same image in your mind.
Yeah, not the sand coming down. That
yeah. Interesting.
The traditional Galige Battalu is the water.
I see. Interesting. Okay. So the next poem is a love poem.
Which one is that?
This was my very last one that I selected.
23?
23. Back from the markets of lust, haven't bought anything. Our trolls rally on the windowsill. The leopard who mates for life, handless martial greybeard, taped up window pane, ancient ring. Living in the presence of each other's lives, from order to chaos, dispelling heat. The one star you pin with your eyes as I scramble for a wish. We see the lightning together, gasping, lips sealing around a vacuum. I watch you asleep, stealing your time. It rains and rains, the tanks fill up, and the grass grows inches overnight. The jealousy because I think you are dying faster. The faint darkness between your lips, the striving for a piece of your skin. You lock me up to make sure I'm there when you return. I wait for days to see you. When finally you appear, I walk away.
Very nice. ಕಾಮದ ಮಾರುಕಟ್ಟೆಯಿಂದ ಮರಳಿದೆ, ಏನನ್ನೂ ಖರೀದಿಸದೆಯೇ. ಕಿಟಕಿ ಕಟ್ಟೆಯ ಮೇಲಿವೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಮರಣಿಕೆಗಳು. ಬದುಕಿಡಿ ಒಂದೇ ಸಂಗಾತಿಯ ಕೂಡುವ ಚಿರತೆ. ಕೈಯಿಲ್ಲದ ಬೂದುಗಡ್ಡದ ವೀರ. ಟೇಪು ಅಂಟಿಸಿದ ಸೀಳಿದ ಕಿಟಕಿ ಗಾಜು, ಪುರಾತನ ಉಂಗುರ. ಪರಸ್ಪರರ ಬದುಕಿಗೆ ಸಾಕ್ಷಿಯಾಗಿ ಬಾಳುತ್ತಾ, ಸುವ್ಯವಸ್ಥತೆಯಿಂದ ಅವ್ಯವಸ್ಥತೆಗೆ ದಗೆ ಹರಡುತ್ತಾ. ಒಂಟಿ ತಾರೆಯನ್ನು ಕಂಡು ನೀನು ಕಣ್ಣಲ್ಲೇ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಗೂಟ ಹೊಡೆದರೆ, ನಾನು ಹರಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳಲು ತಡಬಡಾಯಿಸಿ, ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಮಿಂಚು ನೋಡಿ ಏದಿಸಿರು ಬಿಡುತ್ತಾ ನಿರ್ವಾತದಲ್ಲಿ ತುಟಿಗಳ ಮುದ್ರೆಯೊತ್ತಿ, ನಿನ್ನ ಸಮಯ ಕದ್ದು ನೀನು ನಿದ್ರಿಸುವುದನ್ನೇ ದಿಟ್ಟಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ. ನಿಲ್ಲದ ಧಾರಾಕಾರ ಮಳೆ, ಕೆರೆ ತುಂಬಿ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಬೆಳಗಾಗುವಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಲ್ಲು ಇಷ್ಟುದ್ದ ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತದೆ. ನನಗಿಂತ ನೀನು ಬೇಗ ಸಾಯುತ್ತಿರುವೆ ಎನ್ನುವ ಮತ್ಸರ. ನಿನ್ನ ತುಟಿಗಳ ನಡುವಿನ ನಸುಗತ್ತಲೆ, ನಿನ್ನ ಚರ್ಮದ ಒಂದು ತುಣಿಕಿಗಾಗಿ ಪರಿತಾಪ. ನೀನು ಹಿಂದಿರುಗಿದಾಗ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿರಬೇಕೆಂದು ಬಯಸಿ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಬೀಗ ಹಾಕಿ ಬಂಧಿಸಿದೆ. ನಿನಗಾಗಿ ಕಾದೆ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಕಾಲ. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ನೀನು ಮರಳಿದಾಗ ನಾನು ಹೊರ ನಡೆದು ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ.
She catches the same cadence in the Kannada and reads almost like it's the same poem. Actually, it is.
I request you to read this 37.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
What is 37?
It's very nice. 37.
Okay. This is your favorite?
Yeah. I like this. Actually, all the poems are my favorites.
Okay. So that's nice. That's sweet. 37. I didn't, this is another untitled type of poem.
But yeah.
Om is a super constellation. Note that, you know. Om is a super constellation. Water sticks together. Pain is a verb. Death is not. Wrong is a place. Love has no opposite. Perfection is a being. A dream with more pixels stays longer in the memory. If there was no fear, there would be no objects. To be blessed, sneeze. There is knowledge, and there is the memory of that knowledge by which we continue to regard as true what we have known to be true. I know you want me to repeat that. There is knowledge, and there is the memory of that knowledge by which we continue to regard as true what we have known to be true. The dewdrop knows how to roll on a razor's edge, but sometimes a false step. She was looking for provenance to my words, as if it would help her decide if I shrieked, "Nuts, they're free, they fell from a tree." Some aliens will eat flesh in the hope of becoming flesh. This is a chair. You may as well sit on it. It's no good as firewood.
ಓಂ ಎನ್ನುವುದು ಮಹಾನಕ್ಷತ್ರ ಪುಂಜ. ಜಲ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಂಟಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತದೆ. ನೋವು ಎನ್ನುವುದು ಕ್ರಿಯಾಪದ, ಸಾವು ಅಲ್ಲ. ತಪ್ಪು ಎನ್ನುವುದೊಂದು ಸ್ಥಳ, ಪ್ರೀತಿಗೆ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಪದವಿಲ್ಲ. ಪರಿಪೂರ್ಣತೆ ಎನ್ನುವುದೊಂದು ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ. ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಪಿಕ್ಸೆಲ್ಗಳಿರುವ ಕನಸು ಮೆಮೊರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಾಲವಿರುತ್ತದೆ. ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಎನ್ನುವುದಿಲ್ಲವಾಗಿದ್ದರೆ ವಸ್ತು ಎನ್ನುವುದೂ ಇರುತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೀನಿದರೆ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದ ಸಿಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಜ್ಞಾನವೆಂಬುದಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅಜ್ಞಾನದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಸತ್ಯವೆಂದು ತಿಳಿದಿರುವೆವೋ ಅದನ್ನು ಸತ್ಯವೆಂದೇ ನಂಬುತ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಮಂಜಿನ ಹನಿಗೆ ಹುಲ್ಲು ದಳದ ಚೂಪು ತುದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಉರುಳುವುದು ಗೊತ್ತು, ಆದರೆ ಒಮ್ಮೊಮ್ಮೆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ತಪ್ಪುತ್ತದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಪದಗಳ ಮೂಲವನ್ನು ಅವಳು ಹುಡುಕುತ್ತಿದ್ದಳು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸಲು ನೆರವಾಗಬಹುದೇನೋ ಎನ್ನುವಂತೆ ನಾನು ಚೀರಿದೆ, ದಡ್ಡಿ, ಅವು ಉಚಿತ, ಮರದಿಂದ ಉದುರಿದವು. ಕೆಲವು ಅನ್ಯಲೋಕದ ಜೀವಿಗಳು ಮಾಂಸವನ್ನು ತಿನ್ನುತ್ತವೆ, ತಾವೂ ಮಾಂಸವಾಗಬಹುದೆನ್ನುವ ಆಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಇದೊಂದು ಕುರ್ಚಿ, ಅದನ್ನು ನೀನು ಕೂರಲು ಬಳಸಬಹುದು, ಸೌದೆಯಾಗಿ ಅದು ಉಪಯೋಗವಿಲ್ಲ.
Thank you. You've got the right tone on that.
Yes. So,
I'd like to read a very short poem which everybody seems to enjoy. Maybe tells them about their situation. Page 15.
15.
Yeah.
Okay.
1-5.
Okay.
Yeah.
If everything is impermanent, why do you want it? If everything is impermanent, why do you want it? I don't want anything forever. I don't want anything forever. You will disappoint everyone. You will disappoint everyone, then you will be free.
ಯಾವುದು ಶಾಶ್ವತವಲ್ಲವಾದರೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಬೇಕದು ನಿನಗೆ? ಯಾವುದೂ ನನಗೆ ಶಾಶ್ವತವಾಗಿ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನೂ ನಿರಾಸಗೊಳಿಸುವೆ ನೀನು, ನಂತರ ಮುಕ್ತಳಾಗುವೆ. Can I request you to read 21?
Okay.
Because, see, there were some words I wanted to discuss, you know.
Okay. What eats my love when I debauch? What eats my love when I debauch? Can he punish the wind for her infidelities? Every time she makes to speak and pauses, Every time she makes to speak and pauses, puzzle if she hides a cautious fragrance. Can I say something here
Yeah,
before
yeah,
you
yeah.
read the Kannada?
Yeah, yeah.
This one has come out very well in Hindi. You know,
Okay, okay.
क्या खा जाता है मेरे यार को जब मैं करती हूँ अय्याशी.
See that I wanted to bring that actually. See the Ayashi. How could I couldn't get the debauch or the Ayashi?
It's not there for Kannada
So,
people.
no, we have different words, and the different words have different connotation. So I use the word atikami.
Ah,
Atikami has
Yeah, we talked about this, yeah.
different meanings also. You know.
yeah,
I used it because I thought that fits well.
yeah.
But it's not the exact translation.
We talked about many
and
words.
even the Ayashi, I had problem with Ayashi.
You said it was a negative.
Even does this word in English, does it have the same meaning as Ayashi?
Not we
You are
cannot.
happy.
Yeah, I am happy with it because of the way it rolls,
Oh, okay.
and also because the क्या खा जाता है मेरे यार को.
Yeah,
That's
so
it's,
nice.
it's the same, the identical expression, which is interesting. I mean, it's from English and Hindi both, right?
See, suddenly, in Hindi, it sounds so good. Kya kha jata hai? I couldn't put that in.
Kannada, what did you?
No, if I say what eats him in Kannada, it doesn't have that same thing. So, I wrote it like this.
Okay.
ನಾನು ಅತಿಕಾಮಿಯಾದರೆ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರೇಮಿಯನ್ನೇಕೆ ಅದು ಕಾಡಬೇಕು? There is a slight
Difference.
variation, yes.
So you did
So
add
I'm not-
something.
I am not, no, I am not happy about that actually. That's why I particularly asked you to read this because of
Yes.
But
It's
in
inevitable,
Kannada, but in Kannada by itself it has a meaning.
Yes. Yes.
That's what Karthik Venkatesh said.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
ನಾನು ಅತಿಕಾಮಿಯಾದರೆ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರೇಮಿಯನ್ನೇಕೆ ಅದು ಕಾಡಬೇಕು? ಗಾಳಿಯನ್ನು ಶಿಕ್ಷಿಸಬಹುದೇ ಅವನು ಅದರ ಹಾದರಕ್ಕೆ? ಅವಳು ಮಾತಿಗೆ ತೊಡಗಿ ಬೇಡವೆಂದು ತಡೆದಾಗ ಗುಮಾನಿ ಅವಳೆಲ್ಲೋ ಅಡಗಿಸಿಟ್ಟಿರಬೇಕು ಹುಷಾರಿನ ಪರಿಮಳ.
Beautiful. Yeah. Very nice. So actually, Pratibha, I wanted to ask you for the benefit actually of the audience. You've translated prose, like long prose, novels and so on. And how is the difference from doing poetry? Because you write poetry yourself, right? And then you translate fiction and you translate poetry also. How is the experience so different?
See, I always translate when I like a poem that I want to bring it into my language. I have translated a lot of poems from so many languages, but of course through English. So I have done Sufi Qawwalis into Kannada because I love them. And so when you react to a poem in a very intensely,
and you want to bond with it.
and you want to own it by translation,
Yeah. It's a way of coming closer to it. Yeah.
So but I never included my translations in my collections.
Yeah. But in the prose, in the long prose, like the novels, it doesn't have the same intensity, right?
See, in the prose, when I translated Shashi Deshpande or when I translated Anand Neelakantan, the tone, to get the tone is more important.
Okay.
So English every language has a certain tone.
Okay.
Sometimes the humor is inbuilt into it, so the actual words may not be
The same. I mean, you're not
funny, but
you're
still
not,
the intention is funny.
Okay.
Supposing there is wit.
Are you recreating there, or are you going line by line, line by line? You just sit down and you go, I'm going to translate one line and another line. Like, what's the process, the mechanism?
No.
Because in a poem, it's short, it's a nugget. You're probably diving into it, absorbing it, and then you might approach it. But with a novel, what do you do?
The same.
Same thing.
Yeah, because unless I read and then, unless I get the tone,
You
I
read
can't,
it,
I
feel
can't
it,
put it in Kannada.
and then after that you go line by line.
Then, no, I may read, it is just like recreating.
Okay.
Just go on. And then when I feel that if I'm stuck somewhere with a sentence or with a word, then, I start thinking how to make it sound more Kannada.
Would you say that your prose translations have more fidelity or your poetry translations have more fidelity?
Fidelity is very important to me, so I think both.
Both,
Even
okay.
when I translate essays, you know.
Also.
And see, because translation is also my profession, when I do technical translations or legal or medical translations, I cannot afford to, deviate.
Yeah.
So I'm trained actually, I think, without realizing I'm trained to do exactly what the original has said.
Yeah.
So even, but sometimes I have not done a foreign novel yet. See, when you translate Shashi Deshpande, it is like translating her characters are in Dharwad, in Bangalore. And right now I am translating Anita Nair, whose entire novel is in Jainagar, JP Nagar, and Baswangudi and Shivaji Nagar. So it's as if they are sitting next to me, or that I'm interacting with them. So
Interesting.
I have not done anything that is so alien.
Right.
But except the poetry, I have done a lot of European poets.
Okay.
And
Through
even
English,
those,
yeah.
until I get it, when I translated Baudelaire, for example, three men had already brought out books in it. Lankesh had done Baudelaire poems, Papa the Hoogalu, and then Yogappan had translated. When I did 50 poems of Baudelaire. Everybody felt that it was very different. I said, this is the first time a woman is responding to Baudelaire's, uh, the way he looks at women.
Did you mind that?
Female.
Did you
And
mind that?
I stood on a stage and said that my translations are better than this, because I understand Baudelaire, the way he looked at women, and these two still had some inhibitions, or maybe the way they were looking at women, they were imposing or projecting on Baudelaire. But he was not like that. When he was describing a woman, he was not doing what these two were doing. So suddenly for me, it was like, so when I translated them, they really felt that I got mails also saying that your translation are such a fresh take on Baudelaire, because we were so used to Lankesh saying that, the way he translated it.
Yeah.
So I think
Very
that
interesting.
it's always translation. That's why it's always a new thing, why we have so many translations,
Yes, of course.
And so even just because somebody has translated once, I think if I give it to Madhurani, there sitting there, who is a very good poet, was come from Mysore, if I give this to her, she will, I think, do an entirely different translation of your
Really?
poems. I really think so.
Okay. Great. Cool.
So each translation is a different reading.
Yes.
But I think the translations, even when I take up an assignment also, unless I really like the original, it is very difficult to translate. So what was the question?
I don't know what the question was, but I think we got the answer.
Yeah.
Shall we take questions from the audience?
Yeah.
If there are
anybody
any,
wants.
otherwise we say bye-bye.
No, you can read two more.
You want to read more? Anybody has anything to say or talk about?
I had
Yes,
made
no,
some.
somebody there wants, he's raised a hand. Yeah. Hi. Rohini has any requests, you can tell us.
Yeah.
Like some words which you can't find in Kannada, like this, polish or beach ball. Beach ball is. So if you put a new word there, and at the end if you put the meaning of that in English,
Footnotes.
probably we can make Kannada to grow in the words.
No, to say beach ball itself is introducing a new word. Say, for example, she used that word castanets. I asked her what was a castanet. Though I had seen it, I didn't know that was called castanet. So we have this chimmatike. So I took the liberty actually to say chimmatike, because the both are same. They make the same kind of taka 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 noise. So I was a little hesitant, but I took her permission. Because
So even parent who said, Poshaka, if it is not the
Poshaka is ಇದು ಪುಲ್ಲಿಂಗ, man. It's not a woman. ಪೋಷಕ ಪುಲ್ಲಿಂಗ, ತಂದೆ.
No, then it becomes parents.
Or it introduces the respective root. Alva. And she also uses, we forgot to talk about that. She uses a lot of sounds actually in her poems. So many of her poems, uses sounds like the marbles going grrr, all that.
ಅಥವಾ ಪಾಲಿಶ್, ಹೊಳಪು.
Polish is Kannada, sir, ivaga.
Can you start, like, I don't know, you
Yeah, tell me.
quite, influential to start putting a new words.
Expand the language, he wants you to do that.
ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗತ್ತಾ?
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ದ ವೇ ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಒನ್ ಥಾಟ್ ಏನಂದರೆ, we should use the language that I can speak. Okay, this A.K. Ramanujan taught me that. So whenever he read my poems, this is long back, 40 years ago, okay. So if he always told me, if I use a word putta, he would say it's an emotional word. Where you can use chikka, you should not use putta. So he always said, you should use a language that you can speak. ಸೊ ನನಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಶೂನ ನಾನು ಹೊಳಪಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಶೂ ಪಾಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬರ್ತೀವಿ.
See, actually, for example, some of the lines where I've used words that don't exist, they're made up words. Like there's one line, the nagman brings a daily death. And Pratibha asked me, what does that mean? The nagman brings a daily death. And so I did explain something elaborate, and she converted that into pida, correct?
Yeah.
Something like a pida. Because what are you going to say? If you say nag man in Kannada, it doesn't make any sense.
She invented that word, and even if I had just put it like that, also
It's
nobody
not
would
going to
have
make any
understood.
sense. So, of course, there's going to be some loss in that sense. Yeah.
Illa, what you said is the problem I face every day. See, sometimes a simple thing like if I'm translating a technical exam paper, question paper, those who are writing in Kannada, they should understand what the question is. So it should be as simple, straight as possible. And then I cannot invent a word or see the dictionary and use a word that people don't understand at all.
Whereas in your own poetry, do you do that?
No.
Not much, yeah.
No. Even my poems
That's
are
a
very
style
and
choice.
actually, to tell you, Mani, I stopped using metaphors and similes long back. I grew out of it. See, when I was a very young girl, when I was writing about very sensuous things, so we used a lot of metaphors and similes so that people would not know, because you would feel denuded in public if you are writing about sex. And see, writing sex in English is easy. In Kannada it is very difficult.
Oh?
Yes, really. So in fact, when I wrote my series on erotica, I wrote it in English. Whenever people ask me how I choose a language, if I write erotica, I write it in English. I can't write that
That's
in
right.
Kannada.
I remember this conversation we had, Pratibha. You told me that the English I was writing, it was probably impossible to be passionate in English or something. I said, what are you talking about?
I thought some of her poems were very erotic. But she said, no, they are not erotic. I said, so then I said, no, but then how am I understanding them? So
very
then,
interesting.
what was I saying? Why did we come to this?
Similes and metaphors, and how you don't do
So,
invented new
and then,
words.
as you gradually you start expressing yourself and find that poetry is your basic, medium of expression, then you stop using these, stretches, you don't.
Crutches.
Crutches. You don't need them anymore. Then you are straight now. So for a long time, it is a long time since now that I have given up on similes and metaphors. So I just go straight. So these people, they say, oh, you are very bold. I said, what do you mean by bold? People have written this. It's just that they didn't know. See, I gave an example in Mysore. I had to address one students, So Kuvempu, who everybody has converted into, if you don't know, there was a very senior poet called K.V. Puttappa. His poetic name was Kuvempu. He's worshipped like God. So just because they think he's God, they thought he never wrote erotica. Okay. So I said, I quoted one poem and said, Neenu Sura Sarovara Nanu Deva Kunjara. It is a typical Sangam kind of, a simile for actual love making. Then I quoted so many poems. I said, Kuvempu wrote this, and it is straight, nothing but erotica. They didn't know how to respond to that.
That's just an interpretation.
Yeah.
No, Dara Bendre is also interpreted like that. It may not be true while he is writing that.
No. When they were young, they were very romantic and they have written erotica. It's just that they used a lot of similes and like even in Sangam poetry, first century, they say when the elephant getting into the pond is a straight metaphor for sex. And so much of this elephant getting into the pond is used all over, and they sing it, they talk, nobody in the audience understands that this is pakka erotic.
But this is the bizarre thing that, anything that Pratibha was saying, this is erotic. I was like, no, it's not erotic. Like unfurling clitoris, it's a description. It's a description of an unfurling clitoris. There is the metaphor inside that, of course, of the flag unfurling and the flower unfurling, and all those metaphors are like buried in that. But it's a description. So for me, that was nothing to get thinged about.
No, the same line, the same thing. Anantmurti, you are Anantmurti has a line. It's at Eradu Dalagala Mogge Aralisale Endaga Neenu Nachide Anta. That is exactly what you said.
Okay.
And he
but
said
in Kannada, it's erotic?
It is. Everybody knew that it was erotic.
Okay.
But you can, if I say, come make love to me, they'll feel very, why is she being so bold and just saying that.
Now, how did you translate unfurling clitoris?
I think Bhagankura, I have written it like that only.
Yeah, exactly. And was that?
Okay, yeah. It's okay.
Plain. Plain speak.
In fact, can I digress and just share one very interesting, because we are talking about this. See, once, in one, sorry.
No, please. Yeah.
In one program, one Dalit writer, poet, went on to stage and said, it's very easy for Pratibha to publish her poems because she is a Brahmin. I said, what? So I wrote a poem that says, it is very easy to give up your Brahmanism as easy as taking out your bra. Okay. Bra kalachuvaste sulabhavagi brahmanattvavannu kalachabahudu. And then Sachidanandan, then the poem, describes how the way people look at you, not just look at you, but the 7 generations behind you. So I said, when I was all ready and came and stood at the threshold, they did not take a step forward and I did not remove anything. Okay. So he said, read that poem. In Thiruvananthapuram, there was one poetry festival. So he said, I want you to read that. I have translated it on Malayalam and I want to read that. So I read it. And he read the Malayalam version. So there was some 5,000 audience. They got divided into 2 sections. One saying that it is good that the woman is writing like this. And the other saying, what is this language a woman poet is using? And then one guy, they started fighting, and one guy got onto the stage and said, in Malayalam, to say uncivilized, there's a word called prakritam. Okay. So this fellow came and said, Idu Prakritam. She cannot use such a language. So another guy came onto the stage and said, no, this is Prakritam.
Brilliant.
I said, don't they use a word bra in
Sanskrit,
Malayalam?
Prakrit, Prakrit.
So that's how it is.
Okay.
So just because you use a word, you become bold.
So these are all interpretations, right? Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Seriously.
Yeah. Shall
So
we
that
close
is
with
why
that?
she has in English, it is easy to, to write and, you are appreciated.
Because
for what
you're
you
saying
write.
a social context or something?
Yeah. No, even otherwise, you don't feel hesitant. In fact, I have interviewed so many writers, and when I ask them, women or even men actually, so what makes you cringe when you write? Erotica. Even when they're writing, they feel a little like as if somebody
I
is
think that when
watching
they
over
write
there.
when they write in Kannada, they should switch to English, maybe. Okay, shall we close with that?
Yeah, any questions, please?
We're out of time anyway. Thank you.
Thank you for
so
your
much
time.
for
Yeah.
listening to us. Thank you to BIC and to Atta Galatta that's published this book. This is a
Please buy this book.
the beginning of our
Yeah.
working relationship.
Yes.
And
In fact, we are planning
next
a
year,
bigger book. Yeah, I'm
next
planning
year we'll probably do more.
Yeah.
With more sound puns and more challenges, I guess.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
In fact, let me just last word. Love me in a hurry, the exact translation is avasara. Harige avasara. So, Avasaradalli Preetisu Nanna was the first title given. That was the exact translation.
Yeah.
Then we said, avasara means a lot of other
Wasn't
things
it
also.
your daughter who said bega?
So she said, hurry is now. Like kiss me now, like love me now, kind of. So if that has to come, I use the word bega. Bega Pritsunanna, like, So we brought in that speed also into this.
Thank you.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.